Hey, welcome to another edition of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show, our ongoing miniseries where we break down key updates and design questions straight from the development of Shade Protocol. These episodes are built around the game's community engagement series Devs Ask You, or DAUs, where Kendall and the team not only show us changing, but invite fans to shape the journey with them. Today's episode focuses on one of the most experimental and unpredictable instruments in the game, the Chakram. This weapon has gone through multiple iterations already, and it's clear the team loves the fantasy behind it, but is also presenting some of the most complicated design challenges in the entire combat system. Be sure to follow us and Little Legendary on our socials and YouTube channel, and be sure to join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice directly with the dev team. Links to everything will be in the description down below, and with all that being said, it's Razzle Dazzle time! At its core, the Chakram is designed around portal creation and repositioning. The idea is that Zura can throw the Chakram, creating a rift between locations that she can use to reposition herself. That portal may also allow other things like weapons, enemies, and even projectiles to travel through it. But that core idea immediately introduces a lot of tricky questions. Should teleportation be instant? Should portals persist in the world? How do you balance combat utility with traversal? And how do you make all of that feel intuitive in a fast-paced action game? And on top of that, the team has been experimenting with new combat uses for the Chakram as well, including mid-range throws, enemy vacuum effects, teleport attacks, and even a spinning close-range maneuver. So, let's break down where the design currently stands as of recording. One of the biggest goals for the Chakram, Kendall, is that portal fantasy. The idea that Zura can open rifts in space and move through them creatively. But Kendall, it sounds like the more you explore this idea from what we've gathered in the DAUs, the more complicated it became. When you first imagined the Chakram as a portal tool, what was the original fantasy you wanted players to experience, and at what point did you realize that instant teleportation created problems for the other weapons roles and anything else?
Yeah, so the main thing, I think our so I'll answer the question. I want to position the problem. The problem that we're having is that we can do what we showed in the trailer. So it's not like we're having a technical issue with resolving that. It's more that it starts interfering with the goal and the fantasy of other instruments too much. I'll give an example. Like if the Chakram can get you pretty much anywhere vertically in the viewport, then it starts clashing with like the goal of the spear, right? Whereas the spear can mostly take you very high vertically, but as long as you have a wall, right? So the Chakram in that sense, it's like a superior spear. And we don't like that.
Right.
Of course, we have
especially
many ways of handling that.
Especially if the spear doesn't just allow you to go vertically by itself, even with the spear vault, because that's all horizontal movement, no?
Yeah, I mean, even though the spear vault does give you some little bit of like vertical movement,
Yeah.
it's really meant to be like in terms of distance, it'll probably be like you're doing a second dash, but it won't like if you literally were just, because in our game you can hold right now we have it that you don't even have to hold the button. Whenever you dash, you continue running. Like you don't have to hold it. So as long as you don't stop, your character will keep running. So doing a dash into the spear vault doesn't give you extra speed or range, right? But it does carry you in some motion, and it's extremely good for things like taking enemies with you, right? So it's a really, really good tool, but it's not meant to give you vertical velocity, right? The spear is very good at that when it hits a wall. The challenge that we have the Chakram is that it kind of does everything too well, but the core goal of the Chakram is not to do any of those things. It's mostly to find a way to maybe redirect enemy projectiles, to shift, like create problems, solve problems that normally you would only solve by blocking, parrying, or dodging.
It's to like reposition obstacles rather than repositioning yourself.
Yeah. I'll give you an idea that we haven't showed because we're not sure if we're going to do. But something that we really like was the idea that you would just throw the chakram, and you position it kind of precisely because you can control it very precisely if you want to. And then this moving platforms that we have in the game, they come out of the walls like if they were kind of being printed, like it's code that's coming out of the walls. So it's a very simple illusion, right? But it's not like a moving platform that goes left to right. It's like a printed thing that you hop on and eventually disappears. So our idea was, can we like throw a chakram and then the platform will go through the chakram, right? And go on the other side, and you're kind of moving the platforms around. That's a really cool fantasy that we still want to have. But then it once again necessitates the chakram staying in place for a very long time, because the platforms are kind of slow and that they have to be in order for you to be able to get on them, et cetera, et cetera, right? So the fantasy of the chakram, as we showed it on the first trailer, where the Death Litter is about to shoot you and you throw the chakram, and then you kind of the beam goes through and then hits the other enemy. That's our core. That's the core thing that the chakram needs to do well, and we really want to keep that. And we will do anything to adjust the chakram for that to be the case. Like that's really the dream here, to make sure that we have like that kind of disjointing the enemy projectiles, and kind of doing cute things with them and sending them everywhere, and kind of that cool gameplay is what we think the chakram is special for, and that needs to survive over like the chakram giving you like a lot of vertical mobility, because
Right.
we have many other things that give you that. Yeah, that's the current work. It's not We're not in a bad place with it. It's just the our idea of how to solve it. Unless we give the spear more power, as in like more vertical power, then the chakram covers most of that ground, and we don't quite like that. So even though we do like the idea of two tools solving for similar purposes, there's no issue with that. It gives you more opportunities to be creative. We don't. The chakram is of course materially better because you don't need a wall. So we're solving for that. And nerfing the chakram is not the answer here. It's making it more special.
Right. Yeah, it's not just these two weapons either, or two instruments. Like there's also the katana with the world cut, which allows you to, of course, get into places that you're normally not supposed to. So like there's, as of we know, there's three different instruments that allows you to cover a whole lot of ground and reach a whole lot of different places. So finding the balance between all of that stuff, I can only assume it's a challenge. But like the chakram itself it's I feel like, just by the nature of it, from what we've seen, it's a lot, it's more freeing than the other two, no?
And its old design, yes,
Okay.
because it's kind of like very easy to use to get the result that the player wants.
Right.
So pretty much you would hold the button, you would see like a kind of like a very simple UI that will tell you like, throw it this way, and this is like the line. It looked like one of those like pachinko games, how you call them, like
Yeah.
whenever kind of peglin stuff. So you would see a line that would say, if you aim it towards the right, then it's going to bounce on this wall and this wall and this wall and this wall, and then the chakram is going to end up exactly here. So you always know exactly where the chakram is going to end. Therefore, when you release the button, the chakram would just bounce everywhere, hurt the enemies along the way, and appear there. And that's still something that we like, but the original idea was every time the chakram bounces, it will gain some distance. Because if you don't do that, then you get a really short distance teleport, right? And that's not fun for anybody. So if it's in your screen, you can reach it with the chakram. That was the original design. We probably are going to reduce that to like the distance of the dash, but being able to go, vertical in any direction, right? So you get like a targeting range of anywhere, and then that will allow us to make the spear exceed the viewport and be better for vertical height than the chakram. But you can still jump and then throw the chakram in the air, and so we still have to account for all that distance, right? Like every time we give Zura the ability to like jump, double jump, and then throw a chakram, we have to make the spear better. So it's just a lot of things that we need to account for, um, but it's not. We're not far from a solution. If we end up with like the chakram solving the same vertical issues as the spear, that's not that bad, as long as the spear and the chakram have their own special moments, which we can build, right? We can build circumstances where you need to do one or the other, or they're just materially better. But the core issue with the chakram right now is the fantasy of the teleporting, the projectiles and stuff like that,
Right.
that we want to get right in a way that's like not a lot of buttons. Because yeah, I mean, real quick, the main issue with that component was that in the trailer number one, when you guys saw it, you would when you throw the chakram, Zura would have done like a backflip. So she would, from the place that she's standing, she throws the chakram, and then where she was standing creates the portal, and she kind of does a backflip. If you pay attention to that trailer, what happens with that is that you could do that near a wall, and then Zura has nowhere to go. So she would like backflip into the portal and then instantly teleport, right? Which is not the intended use of the chakram. Or maybe at that point that's not what you wanted to do. Or the other alternative is like chuck Zura into the wall, or push the chakram forward, which creates the same problem, right? So it was just conceptually that motion, that movement motion, doesn't play fast enough for the gameplay that we want, and we need a different solution. But we're still gonna get it. Like we're gonna find a way. It's just not. It doesn't play the way we want to for now.
Understood. So yeah, now that's traversal and platforming stuff. Let's talk a little bit more about in combat. So I know, like you just explained, we are able to redirect and reposition enemy projectiles and stuff. But I know from the trailers again that we can also send ourselves and our own other instruments through the portals the chakrams creates to also give us an advantage against our enemies. So how important is that inter-weapon synergy to the identity of the chakram? And do you see the chakram as more of a combat tool or a mobility tool because of that?
So right now, the chakram is definitely, as in like
As
what
of
we have
recording.
finished.
Yeah.
Yeah, as this recording, the chakram is definitely more of a mobility tool than it is a
Mm,
combat tool, and we want to solve that. So one of the things that we did in one of the more recent DAUs as of this recording is that we introduced like an actual combat kit for the chakram. So what happens is like you could throw it like kind of like a boomerang, with whenever you're tapping the button in the ground, and she throws it in a like it's hard to explain, but it does like it goes forward and then it kind of loops backwards. It doesn't go in a straight line and back.
right.
So it does like this little, but the cool
It's like
thing
an
that it
arch.
does,
No?
yeah, like it does like a little like a
It's like Captain America.
I guess like an oval. It does like an oval motion,
Right.
right? You throw it and it does that oval motion. But what's really cool about it is that in the current design, in the combat test that we have, it brings like once it touches the enemy, it kind of vacuums them into that the chakram's kind of epicenter. So it brings them to you. So it's pretty cool when you're dealing with like smaller enemies. So you throw the chakram and it kind of starts hitting them, and it does like this multi-hit kind of like Mega Man Zero vibe. It's like
Mm,
like it hits them a lot for very little damage, but it adds up a lot. So it throws it, you throw it, and then they kind of vacuums them all the way in front of you. That is a really cool thing that we at some point wanted to give the spear, but the spear kind of has the opposite effect right now. So you throw the spear and it pushes enemies away, which is incredibly useful for enemies that charge at you, or just to separate them so you could do maybe dash cancels into them or the spear vault or whatnot. So it's a good tool to create space. But the chakram is kind of doing the opposite. It's bringing them to you. The other alternative, of course, that we have is when you're in the air, if you press the button to throw the chakram, as in like you hold the button, you will get this UI that lets you select where you're throwing the chakram. But when you are doing that, the first part of that motion, she does like this kind of hula hoop motion with the chakram,
I
and
was gonna
all
bring
of
that
that
up.
hits
Yeah.
down. Yeah, it's really pretty. Of course, we only have like a sketch of it right now, so
Yeah.
her animation is kind of Yankee. But once you get it right, it if an enemy's close to you, you can start the motion of teleporting, and all of that will hit the enemy like a ring around you. And then when you release it, the chakram will pull the enemy with it all the way to where you end. So it makes it really easy for you to continue an air combo. Um, and I think that kind of stuff for the average player feels really good. It doesn't punish the average player for not being able to maybe like dash into a cancel of a some swing in order to then have enough height to track the enemy. But then the really good players, the players that are able to like get the most out of a combat system, they'll be able to use all of this to their advantage and create some cool tricks. So everyone's happy and everybody feels powerful. So that's the current design of it. But the main thing is giving the chakra more combat utility, so that it's not just a mobility tool, because it has its own button. The Chakram is special in that way. I mean, all the instruments have their own button, but we're merging some of them in terms of utility. Like, fast weapons go in your X button, slow weapons go in your Y buttons, and there's context to them, and it's really easy to use all of them. But the Chakram has its own button, one of the bumper buttons, and we definitely want it to be more of a something that you do mid combo or something that you're using to reposition, so that it feels good pressing that button versus you're just using it to get somewhere.
Then let me ask this. That one move, that hula hoop move, can first of all, can that attack both front and back of Zora? Like, will enemies in either position be hurt if she uses that move?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we that should end up being similar to one of the swings of the axe. There's a swing of the
Gotcha.
axe that is currently not in the core combo anymore because we shifted it a little bit, but it's still in the game. But she does like this upward attack, and then the axe lands behind her and kind of
Right.
bounces against the floor.
Right.
If you're there, you're gonna get hit,
Gotcha.
right? Because there's a huge axe landing on your face. You're gonna get hit.
Yeah.
But in the air, it's kind of valuable because if you're surrounded by enemies and then you like teleport straight up, or you just jump and then you start using the chakram, you're gonna hit all of them, right?
Right.
But what probably won't happen is that hula hoop move will move the enemies that are behind you in front of you.
Yes.
So they'll
Yeah.
stay where they are and they'll get hit.
Just get
And then
sliced
when you
off
throw
like
the chakram,
Raiden or
yeah,
something. Right.
yeah, that they'll get like hurt where they are.
Yeah.
But then when you throw the chakram, they'll all come with you because they all get vacuumed
I
into the
get you.
chakram. Yeah.
Then have you thought about like using the chakram in terms of combat in a more like AoE crowd control type of way?
The main thing right now is that Zura's so aggressively mobile. She has like such a good toolkit compared to any other Metroidvania character I've ever seen, that when we think about crowd control, I mostly worry about like disabling enemies any more than they're already disabled
I
by
see.
sheer power of Zura. Like, she has so much that she could do right now. She's able to do way too much, and we don't want to nerf that. We don't want to reduce the ability of the core character to be powerful. But when we think about like crowd control, we're most thinking like um, vacuuming the enemy and taking it somewhere where you want it, or like sending it upwards, or controlling the enemy, but not as in like a lot of people, for example, really want like the axe to like stun enemies, right? Like, you hit the enemy hard and they just get stunned, they're disabled. I think like that's a cool fantasy, but the consequences are very, very dire, right? Like,
Mm,
now you end up in a situation where enemies are, you know, most of the time unable to participate in combat. And then that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I want you to have fun. But the problem is, if nothing poses a challenge between a boss and the next boss, when you get to the next boss, you're gonna feel like the game's cheating you out of, the game is kind of taking advantage of how it trained you to play, because now the bosses are the only place where you get hurt. And we don't like that, of course. We need enemies to be able to kind of deal with Zura's toolkit. But it's not that we don't have some crowd control. Like, the the katana gives you a dash. I think people have seen it already. That it's like kind of the I don't remember the name in Hollow Knight, but I think it's Sharp Shadow or something like that. Like when you do your dash, that you kind of turn into like this, black shadow, and that's when you are like fully immune.
Right.
And then it starts charging again. So if you dash 2 times in a row, you won't have the shadow effect the second time. So it's kind of similar, but I don't know if it's timed. It's bound to a resource at this moment. But whenever you use it, if you want to use that dash, it's pretty easy to use. You press down in the dash button instead of like just normal. But if you press down and dash, when you do this, like Zura goes through an enemy and kind of the game slows down, and then she does a cut on top of them, like instantly cuts them, and that cut definitely stuns them. But it stuns them where they are anywhere. So if they're in the air and you dash through them with this dash, they'll get stunned in the air and they'll stay there like for a little bit, like they glitch in the air. That's the kind of way that you could use that to like either escape or to like continue a very difficult combo because the enemy's kind of locked in place for a little while. That's like a really good use of crowd control because you're also getting close to the enemy. So you're not like, it's not like, oh, here's like a Chakram that I threw really, really far away and it stunned you all the way over there and then I could run safely. We like it where you're getting the reward of, yes, the enemy's disabled, but the goal is for you to get close to them, right? For you to go in there and fight. That's the current design. But, more crowd control tools are coming, for sure.
This has been another episode of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show. Want to help with Shade Protocol becomes? Join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice with the dev team directly. Go follow Shade Protocol on Kickstarter, and if you like this breakdown, check out our past spotlights and interviews with Kendall right here on the Razzle Dazzle Show. Remember, the future of Emeria is still being written.